Have you ever noticed how silence can be louder than words? Not the awkward silence we scramble to fill, not the silence of distance between two people who no longer speak. I'm talking about a silence that protects you, the kind of silence that stands like an invisible shield around your soul. Because the truth is this: most of us don't collapse from noise outside of us. We collapse from the noise we let inside. Carl Jung once wrote that, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." And in this unconscious noise, in the chatter of people's expectations and the weight of their judgments, we lose ourselves. But silence has the power to return us, to preserve what is sacred, and maybe, just maybe, it is the most radical act of self-preservation in a world addicted to noise. We live in masks. Jung called it the persona, the face we present to the world, the polite smile when we're breaking inside, the I'm fine when we are anything but fine, the way we force ourselves to keep talking, keep giving, keep entertaining, as if our worth depends on being understood, validated, and accepted. But here's the thing: the persona is necessary. It's a bridge between who we are and who the world expects us to be. Without it, we couldn't survive in society. Yet, what happens when the mask becomes too heavy? When the face we wear for others begins to replace the face we have for ourselves? I think of a friend I once knew. She laughed louder than anyone else at the party, always with the perfect story, the perfect timing. People adored her. But when the night ended and the silence of her bedroom swallowed her, she confessed to me one evening, "I don't even know who I am when nobody's watching. I've performed for so long I can't tell where the act ends and where I begin." That's the danger of living too much in the persona. You lose the thread back to yourself. Silence, uncomfortable as it may seem, strips away the mask. It doesn't applaud your performance. It doesn't need you to explain yourself. It just sits there waiting until what is false falls away and what is true begins to breathe again. Most of us were raised to be available, to answer the phone when it rings, to say yes when asked, to smile when spoken to give when someone takes. But psychic energy, as Jung called it, is not infinite. It's life force, the very fuel that animates your existence. And every time you allow someone to cross your boundaries, every time you betray yourself just to keep the peace, you leak a little more of that energy away. Think of it like water in a well. You draw and you draw and you draw, but you never let the rains refill it. One day the rope goes down and comes up dry. Silence is the rain. Boundaries are the stones around the well. Without them, there is no preservation of the self. I once watched a man, let's call him David, burn out in front of me. He was the go-to person in every situation, family, friends, and colleagues. Reliable, always on. He never said no. He wore his exhaustion like a badge of honor. Until one day he simply broke, not with an explosion, but with a quiet implosion. He didn't show up to work, didn't answer calls. Days later, when he finally resurfaced, his words were haunting. "I gave everyone a piece of me, until there was nothing left for me." This is why silence and boundaries matter. They are not selfish, they are survival. We think words solve everything. We over-explain, over-defend, over-share, and hoping someone will finally get us, but sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing. Because silence is not absence. Silence is presence. without explanation, without justification. There's a story of a monk who, when insulted, never replied. When mocked, he stayed silent. His students asked him, "Why don't you defend yourself?" He answered, "If someone offers you a gift and you don't accept it, who does it belong to?" That is the essence of silence, a refusal to carry what is not yours. And when you practice it, something astonishing happens. You realize how much energy you once wasted in arguments, in proving and explaining to people who were never listening in the first place. You discover that you don't need to attend every battle you're invited to, that you don't have to answer every question, that you don't have to bleed just because someone else is cutting. At the core of Jung's psychology is individuation, the lifelong process of becoming who you truly are. Not the mask, not the role, not the expectations, but the self, whole, integrated, real. And individuation requires silence, because silence is where the unconscious whispers, where the soul reveals what the persona hides. Think about it. When was the last time you sat in silence long enough to feel uncomfortable? Long enough to hear the voices inside you? Not the voices of parents, teachers, lovers, bosses, not the voices of guilt or shame, but your voice, the one that rarely gets a chance to speak because the world is so loud. Silence is terrifying because it confronts us with ourselves, with the truth of who we are when nobody is clapping, nobody is watching, nobody is demanding. But it is in that confrontation that freedom is born. Imagine yourself as a castle. Inside, your soul, your heart, your most sacred energy. Outside, the world, beautiful, yes, but also chaotic, noisy, demanding. If your walls are too high, no one gets in. You live isolated, disconnected. If your walls are too low, everyone rushes in, leaving footprints and wreckage. Boundaries are not about walls that imprison, they are about gates that you control. You decide who enters when and how long they stay. And silence. Silence is the moat around your castle. It slows down the noise long enough for you to decide, do I let this in, or do I preserve my space? When you understand this, you stop apologizing for protecting your peace, because peace is not a luxury. Peace is oxygen. I once saw an elderly woman sitting on a park bench, alone, no phone, no book, just sitting. People passed her by with puzzled looks. How strange to just be. I sat near her, curious. After a long silence, she turned to me and said softly, "You know, I used to fill every silence with someone else's voice. Then one day I realized I'd never heard my own. Now I sit here every morning listening, and it's beautiful." That struck me. Most of us are terrified of hearing ourselves because in that silence truths surface. Truths we've buried under busyness and noise. But she found liberation there. She found that silence is not emptiness, it's fullness. The fullness of your own being finally allowed to breathe. So let me ask you, when was the last time you gave yourself the gift of silence? When was the last time you set a boundary not to punish someone but to preserve yourself? When was the last time you chose to walk away instead of explain? And more importantly, when was the last time you asked yourself, what do I actually need? Who am I beneath the mask? Where is my energy flowing? Because if you don't ask these questions, the world will answer for you. Here's the paradox. Silence is not weakness. Boundaries are not cruelty. Self-preservation is not selfishness. They are acts of love. The deepest love. For yourself, yes, but also for others. Because when you preserve your energy, when you protect your soul, when you become whole, you actually have something real to give. Imagine if every word you spoke carried weight because it wasn't diluted by over-explanation. Imagine if every yes you gave was sacred because it wasn't smothered in 1,000 unspoken no's. Imagine if your presence in a room radiated calm because you weren't leaking energy everywhere. That is the power of silence. That is the gift of boundaries. That is the beauty of individuation. So maybe the next time someone demands an answer, you pause. Maybe the next time noise tries to drag you in, you stay still. Maybe the next time your mask grows heavy, you set it down and let the silence remind you who you really are. Because silence is not empty. It's not passive. It's not absence. Silence is the sound of your soul returning home. And in that return, you find something rare, something holy. You find yourself. If this message spoke to something deep within you, don't let it end here. Join us on the Sci Peak, where we explore the hidden landscapes of the mind, the soul, and the human heart. Subscribe, share this journey, and let's rise together. One insight, one story, one awakening at a time.